dreaming of a white Christmas,
just like the ones I used to know. And now, James, can we please start the show?
James Well, the voice of reason on the James Well radio show.
Okay, well, I'm not a really very good singer, but here we are, compliments of the season. Christmas is here. Hello. Hey, Rob.
Hello.
Hey. Now, we've got a special program today. We've got a couple of good bits. We're going to replay my interview with Dr. Richard Lawrence from the Aetherius Society. Because I think it's quite interesting. He believes that there are aliens out there and that they are waiting to come and see us. So we'll be doing that in a moment. But we're going to start the program, our Christmas special off, with a chat with a lady I've known for a lot of years. A woman who used to be on our televisions the whole time, reading the weather. The very lovely. In fact, last time I met her, and I'll ask her, I wonder if she remembers. Last time we spoke, she was in the bath. But it was about 20-odd years ago.
In the bath?
Yeah, she was in the bath in Moscow. But I bet you she doesn't remember. Let's talk to the one and only Sian Lloyd. Sian, the face of television weather, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
I don't see you enough on television.
No, because I gave up doing the weather on ITV. I did 23 years, so I guess I'm a survivor, but instinctively I thought it was time to move on. Now, I don't know if you've ever had that feeling at all in your life, James, but I definitely had that.
Well, when I get to that sort of age, I might, but, you know, I don't think about... People think I should have moved on years ago, to be honest with you, Sian, and I just ignore them. I was trying to think back last time I interviewed you on the radio, and I remember when it was. You won't remember this, but it must have been 25 years ago or something. And I think I don't know, were you in Russia at the time?
I was working for Worldwide Television News, and I was at the WTN flat in Moscow, in the bath, when we talked on the phone. I remember it distinctly.
Do you know, so do I. Isn't that funny? I wouldn't have thought you remembered being in the bath, but I certainly remember you being there.
I have an elephantine memory. My memory is my big thing. It scares my friends, the minutiae I can remember.
Well, actually, for me, it's not a small thing to remember you in the bath, but there we are.
Thank God it was over the phone, and not a video phone.
Who said that? Oh, yeah, yes. We'll keep it that way. If that's what you want to remember, that's fine. What a shame we didn't have FaceTime in those days. Before we talk about weather, because I know you are passionate about weather. You know about weather, aren't you? You're not just you weren't, I should say, just a presenter that was asked to do the weather.
I, in fact, had a humanities and arts background, and then a news training, BBC News trained. And then I moved from news into the weather. At that point, I insisted on having training if I was going to do the weather. That was part of the deal of getting the job. And so what they did then was sent me to the Met Office College, which was then, in fact, near Reading. And I had day release twice a week, culminating in exams and putting together charts, etc. And I was the sort of guinea pig. I was the first person the Met Office had ever done that with. And funnily, I'm rather irritated at the fact that they then brought the standards down after me. They made the course easier. They then started training other presenters from all around the world. So I copped the difficult bit. But I have to tell you, James, I'm prouder of that qualification than any other I've done in my life. I've got a few degrees and I've done this and that, but that's the one that stands out for me because from going from a humanities background, suddenly I had to deal with theoretical physics and chemical equations. And hand on heart, I struggled. But I got there. And I'm a bit of a weather anorak now, a bit of a weather obsessive, and I bore people on Twitter putting out lots of pictures. And for instance, this morning I've been checking out what's been going on in Japan, checking out a white Christmas for us, and I've probably spent about 2 hours looking at the charts on the computer. But you see, I'm one of these funny people that believe that any modern man or woman, I think, has got to have science as part of their armour. It's not just enough nowadays to say, oh, I'm an arts person, don't you know? And you gain so much when you've got science in your life.
Well, I think it would be difficult to live without an interest in science, really, in today's world. Although, being a technophobe myself, there are enough people around to help me out. But, you know, I'm amazed sometimes I meet people who say, oh, I'm never going to get into this computer thing. I mean, you can't really live properly now without being online. And I would think in the next 5-10 years, you won't be able to at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. My mother, sadly, my mother's one of the most intelligent people I know, a double first from Cambridge, okay? You don't get better than that, do you? You know, she could not be brighter, and yet she has a mental block, and she refuses to use a computer. She's 81, and I know so many people at 84, 85, I know a 96-year-old, great on a computer, totally computer literate, but my mother refuses to do so. And I think you're right, but I think one of the problems is going to be, because I do lots of charity with old age concern and what have you, I think the problem is going to be now, there is going to be a sector of society, older people, who are not going to be able to function in society because they lack those computer skills.
I caused upset on one of my radio shows on the BBC because I thought, a little naughtily, I said, I tell you what, I've just done the work. I'm not doing Fahrenheit anymore. And the boss actually came on and said, yes, you are. I said, no, come on, we don't need Fahrenheit. What is the point of it? And of course, you can imagine people went mental. Not all older people. You get some of the little Englanders. Oh, well, Fahrenheit, that's English, and we ought to keep West. Not. It's actually German. It'd be ridiculous.
I know, but mea culpa. I think up until my last broadcast on ITV, I was prone to throwing in the odd translation into Fahrenheit. And I used to think, well, there are lots of older people who do still think in Fahrenheit. So I'm not completely with you on that. But yeah, I accept what you're saying.
Oh, but I couldn't leave it there, you see. That's the problem I have. I had to go one step further and say, and you know, while we're at it, why don't we all drive on the right side of the road? It would make life so much easier in the world.
That's why you're more controversial than I am, James.
Well, I didn't think that was particularly controversial, do you?
Oh, I don't know. People get very, very stuck in their ways, don't they? Very defensive, you know, like the whole pound, euro thing. And remember William Hague with his little necklace with the pound mark and I don't know.
Yes. Let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about global warming. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's, I guess, not thoughts. It's not a belief system. It is happening. So, you know, there's all the evidence that things are getting warmer. In fact, I've been to places, I was in Chamonix recently, and it's quite scary the way the ice has retreated in Chamonix. It used to come all the way down into the villages. Now it's retreated way back up the mountain. It's a fact. It is happening.
I agree with you, and I think the climate has always changed.
Yeah.
But what I'm not so keen on is politicians saying, "Oh, well, if you stop driving your car and if you stop flying in aeroplanes, the climate will go back to the way it was." The climate's never stayed stable, has it?
No, I totally agree with you. You know, at this time of year, I'm being asked about white Christmases all the time, and we think of those Dickensian Christmas cards with robins and snows and picturesque churches and villages covered with snow, etc., etc. And you think back to Dickens's time, and there was a mini ice age at that point. And that's why Dickens, all his novels, have so many references, A Christmas Carol, Pickwick Papers, etc., have so many references to snow, because in his early years, there was snow on the ground and ice and masses, just like the Christmas card sees.
I mean, they had ice fairs on the Thames.
They did. They were roasting chestnuts on the Thames and skating on the Thames, weren't they? And when I talk about things changing, the glacier, I talked about the glacier in Chamonix, but on the other hand, I was actually in Chile fairly recently at a glacier that's actually growing. Perito Moreno in Chile is actually growing. So nothing is straightforward, is it?
Well, I interviewed somebody a while ago who's written a book, and I can't remember the name of it, or I would say. But basically, his belief, the guy who wrote this book, is that the normal state of this planet is ice and snow, and that we're living in a time between ice ages, and that ice ages come on this planet regularly, and in the next few hundred, maybe 1,000 years, there will be another one. However much we warm up, eventually we will head into an ice age, and quite often, apparently, the planet warms up before the ice age.
That could well be the point. It's not as if we're going to be around to see, but that could well be the point. But I love your thing about vehicles, because now you're touching upon a nerve here. This whole thing about dual mode vehicles, these hybrids, that in effect are worse for the planet. And like you, my big thing is politicians who do not understand. They don't understand climate. In a way, I'm coming back to what I said earlier about science. Now, I'm very, very anti-wind farms, for instance. I think they're the biggest sham of the modern age, okay? And they basically don't work. And yet you get MPs, because they want to be tagged as green. They don't understand climate. They don't understand science. They don't understand engineering. They don't understand how energy is produced. But they just latch on to, I want to be green. And so they'll support the hybrid vehicles. They'll support the wind farms with no comprehension of what it's actually about. And that's my big hobby horse, is ignorant politicians.
Well, listen, I'm right with you. Right, listen, if you want to start a campaign, let me know, because I think you are 100% right. Whilst I've no doubt that mankind is eating up resources, and eventually I think mankind will probably evolve themselves out of existence. But then that's what things do. And, you know, the other thing that people get very upset, the panda is only clinging on by its claws. Well, it is only clinging on because it's out of its time. And we can't save every species. We all have a limited time on this planet, and then other species come along. It's barking mad trying to keep everything as it was.
Yeah. Everything has changed, you know. Everything, just like the weather. What a beautiful comparison. You know, weather patterns change, and everything in life change. And there's a period. There's a song. Is there not a song? Did Mary Hopkins not at one point sing a song? A time for change, or there is something like that that's coming to mind. Now, you're the maestro when it comes to music, and that is so true. Everything evolves, everything changes.
You're right as well. It was Mary Hopkins. Now, I want to talk about your new TV show on Welsh television, which you know, I used to do it. You know, I'm Welsh anyway, more or less. My mother was Welsh.
Reminds me of the Tafia in you. How did that come about? What are you exactly?
In Welsh, you mean?
No. What percentage Tafia are you?
50, I suppose, although my mother would have said 100%. My mother was born in Rumney, which is in the valley, see? It
is, yeah. I know Rumney.
And I used to present a show on HTV Wales with Eleanor Jones. Have you ever met Eleanor Jones?
Oh, God, yes. Oh, the iconic Eleanor, absolutely. Yeah, and in fact, she was a great presenter, Eleanor. She doesn't present anymore. I haven't seen her on for a long, long time. And what was that show called?
Do you know, I think it was called Eleanor Live, and it was on Friday night, 1989, and it was her show, but I was one of the reporters on it, and it was one of my first ever television jobs. And, oh dear, one night we had a live audience. One night my mum was in the audience, and the floor manager came up and said to me, and my mother heard him, he said to me, James, the director says, could you speak with more of a Welsh accent? And my mother stood up and gave him such a mouthful.
Really?
Such a mouthful.
How funny. Because I was recently in a studio in Glasgow working with John Barrowman, okay?
Oh, yeah.
I always thought of John Barrowman as being terribly mid-Atlantic in his accent. And yet, as he stood there in Glasgow in front of a Scottish audience, my God, did his vowels change. He can do Scottish when he needs to. And by the end of the programme, I could hardly understand a word he was saying. But of course, he'd switch, once the camera was on, he'd switch back to mid-Atlantic. But in real life, he does a mean Scottish accent. I hadn't appreciated he'd grown up in Scotland and then, I think, gone off to America, hadn't he?
Yeah, yes, he had. I find the same. If I'm in Wales, I start... But I can't go into Wales very often now.
Why's that?
Well, I start sort of taking on the Welsh, the taffia about the Welsh language, and they get really upset with me.
I have very broad shoulders, so fire away, James.
No. I just, you know what it's like. I often say things just to amuse myself. and sometimes if I find a little chink in the armour, I might dig a little deeper.
You play devil's advocate, don't you?
So I was on a show once and they were doing, and I said, hang on. What is the point of everybody learning Welsh when you can't speak it anywhere other than Wales and Patagonia?
You know what? I love the fact you know about Patagonia. You're in a small percentage of people who actually know about Patagonia. In fact, I'm doing a program there next year, in July next year.
Well, I tell you what, I was in Brittany not long ago, and Brittany, of course, there's a certain amount of Welsh and Scottish tradition in Brittany, in France.
Yeah, of course they've got Breton. I did Celtic studies, and one of the things I had to study was Breton and medieval Irish and all the rest of it. What is the point? Go on, ask it.
Well, I was going to say that, but I thought, listen, it doesn't really matter if people enjoy doing it. I think what annoys me a little bit about the economy in Wales, and I do, listen, part of my heritage is Welsh, and I do think about it, and I think that Wales would be so much more economically viable if they didn't worry so much about some of the heritage and culture. It's important, and there will always be people who will keep it going. But sometimes I think, well, the amount of money spent on that, TV and radio channels purely in Welsh, that can't really be viable, can they?
You know what? I used to sit on the Wales Tourist Board, which unbelievably, when the Labour government came into power in Wales, they did away with it. I mean, talk about the crassest, most stupid thing to do. They incorporated it into the Assembly, so now it's run by a bunch of civil servants. You can imagine how successful that is. Back in the day, when we had a Wales Tourist Board, I used to sit on it, and my chairman was... Do you remember the English cricketer? He captained England, Tony Lewis?
I do, yeah.
Fabulous chairman. My goodness, the after-dinner stories he used to tell were the best ever. Anyway, that's by the by. All our research showed that the culture and heritage and all that malarkey is what attracts tourists to Wales. They want to come to a different country, if you like. Now, tourism is the number one industry in Wales. It now outstrips agriculture. Back in the day, it used to be agriculture without a shadow of a doubt. Now it's tourism. And so we need all that stuff, and we need it played up even more and to protect it even more if we're to get the all-important tourists.
Can I listen? I spent every summer holiday in Porthcawl, of my youth. Every summer holiday. My grandmother lived in Porthcawl.
Coney Beach.
Well, we went to Rest Bay and Gulf Bay. It's a little more upmarket.
Treco Bay is the other one.
Yeah. And do you know where the Seabank Hotel is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Well, the Seabank Hotel, which is a beautiful 20s building and is, should be done up. And I sprinkled my mother in the sea, actually, just opposite the Seabank Hotel. Yeah. But I didn't realise that, ashes were very dusty, and I swallowed most of my mother. But anyway, that's another story.
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's lovely that you sprinkle in the sea there. My memory of that area is I have a crown on one of my front teeth, and I have that crown because there's a place near Porthcawl called Lochs Common. Did you ever go to Lochs Common?
Lochs Common. I used to shoot bows and arrows on Lochs Common.
I knew Robin Hood would come forth somehow. Well, I played rugby on Lochs Common against a boys' team, and I was actually tackled to the ground, and my front tooth got broken on Lochs Common, and I have a crown on my tooth because of the Porthcawl area. So between your swallowed ashes and my crown, there's a bit of an oral theme going on here, isn't there?
Well, we better have a meeting there, share another bath or something, obviously on the phone.
Yes. You come dressed as Robin Hood, I'll do Mama Christmas. How about that?
Yeah, no, that'll be fine. In fact, yes, no, I won't say what I was going to say. Listen, this is the thing about Wales. While we do, I wasn't going to turn this into a long conversation about Wales, but there we are. Rob, my producer's in Wales at the moment, so it won't matter. What Wales need is some really good hotels at reasonable prices.
Yeah. I think we've improved a lot there. You know, you're absolutely right. Now you're talking my language. Do you know, James, I love hotels. If I go to a city, I am more interested almost in the amazing hotel I'm going to stay in than some of the monuments I'm going to see in said city, okay? I could spend my life doing hotels. And my favourite programme at the moment, I don't know if you've watched it at all, on Sky Atlantic, Richard E. Grant has been going around all the best hotels on earth. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that. I'd like to.
Oh, it's a treasure. It just doesn't seem to have been advertised or hyped very much at all, but he is such a natural. He's got an utterly fabulous sense of humour, outrageous sense of humour, but in a very subtle way, very clever with words, and a real word merchant at the same time. I mean, what a gig, travelling around the best hotels on earth. You know, we would kill kittens for that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to do something in Wales to get... You see, if I was to go to Porthcawl, there isn't a really, really nice hotel there. There are lots of B&Bs, but there isn't a nice hotel looking out over the sea. And lots of places are like that.
Yeah, although it has improved. We've got places like the Celtic Manor and Llangard Hall, all of which have won a lot of awards, and the Condé Nast Awards, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith Boutique Hotel Awards. Things have improved no end, but yeah, but there must be somewhere in Porthcawl. Of course, now I'm struggling because I haven't been to Porthcawl for some years. I don't even know what I'm talking about here.
The Coed Muster, which was quite nice.
Yeah, isn't that near Bridgend somewhere?
It's nearer Bridgend than Porthcawl.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we upset all of our listeners, except may I say a very big hello to those of you listening to me in Patagonia, and I know you do. Sian, let's do the weather for Christmas.
Do you want to know about a white Christmas?
Well, yes, in different parts of... Well, let's start in England. Is there going to be anywhere in England that has snow this Christmas?
I don't think so. But things can change, can't they, you know? At the moment, the charts are all going for roughly a dry day and things getting cold from Christmas Eve onwards, to the extent that it could get quite cold from around about the 28th onwards. And into the new year, that could well last. But in the run-up to Christmas and Christmas Day, I don't think there's going to be a white Christmas. Smart money says a green Christmas and a dry Christmas, but not a white one. All
right. What about Wales? Any snow anywhere in Wales?
Again, I don't think so. I think if there's going to be any snow, it's going to be in Scotland on some of the higher ground there. Things are looking colder up there, but I doubt it very much. I hope I'm wrong. I love white Christmases. Look, I'm entertaining a gangful in my house in Mid Wales over the Christmas period, and last year we went out for a gorgeous walk on Christmas Day, went up to the source of the River Severn, and there was a sprinkling of snow on the hilltops, and it was absolutely magical. And I'm a bit of a Christmas, a Noelaholic, or whatever you want to call it, and love all the trappings of Christmas, but it doesn't look as if it's likely. But, James, you know what the weather's like? It only takes the wind to change direction and everything goes...
You're absolutely right. The jet stream, though, seems to be playing a better game with us this year than last year. Last year was very wet. Hopefully that won't be repeated.
Yeah, but we need that combo, don't we, of we need the moisture and we need the low temperatures in order to get our snow. It's a bit like Christmas itself. It's a bit of a magical combination, and it's stunning how rarely it does actually happen, especially on Christmas Day. And yet everyone wants that white Christmas. This time of year, I'd go nowhere without at least a dozen people within an hour asking me, is it going to be a white Christmas? And I don't know what it is. It stirs something up in people, this longing, this yearning for that white Christmas. I guess it's we can blame old Bing Crosby and that song, can't we? And then Hollywood perpetuating it all.
Sian, it's been lovely. Until the next time, maybe in Porthcawl, you never know. Thank you very much indeed for your time. You have a great Christmas.
You too. Will you be shooting any bows and arrows stuff?
Yeah, yes, I think if I get the chance, I shall be out there. You should come shooting with us one day.
I once did a thing. Do you remember they used to have a program, a clay pigeon shooting program called something like Star Shot on TV? And I'm going back a long time now. Do you remember that?
I do. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Well, I had the honour of shooting with, I think it was the Irish. The Irish have got a good tradition in shooting. The Irish champion. And one round, I had 0, didn't manage to get a single clay. The following round, I got 100% and even beat the professional. So when it comes to aim, I am very hit and miss.
Yeah, maybe I won't take you if you're that good. Sian, listen, you have a great Christmas, and thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you. Lovely, lovely, lovely chatting with you. And have a fantastic Christmas yourself and a wonderful, wonderful New Year. I think 2015 is going to be a good one for us all.
We'll talk in the New Year soon.
Thanks, James. Really nice to talk to you. Brilliant. All the best. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Happy Christmas.
Bye.
Would you like a free audiobook? Our friends at Audible are giving everybody a free audiobook just by going to the James Whale Radio Show website, jameswhaleradio.co.uk. All you need to do is click on the Audible link, register, and you'll get your free audiobook. It's a bit like a book club, and remember, you can leave at any time and you still get to keep your free audiobook. So what are you waiting for? Just head over to the James Whale Radio Show website, jameswhaleradio.co.uk, and click on that Audible link now.
With loads of requests, by the way, Robbo, for Wrap It Up for Christmas again. Mm-hmm. And I thought you might be able to play that to finish the programme.
Again? Yeah, I can do that again.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Don't forget, you can, of course, visit our website, jameswhaleradio.co.uk. As I say, 64 hours of Wales programmes there. Plus, of course, our sponsors and advertisers are there. If you want to get hold of some Whaley stuff for the new year, a new Whaley T-shirt would be good, would it not?
It would, yes.
Yeah, and if you're into music, check out, of course, we've got a really great advertiser up there advertising all sorts of musical instruments and other stuff, haven't we?
Yeah, Musicola.
Now, this is called Ho Ho Ho, Merry Christmas.
With bells on.
If there's one thing I hate about Christmas, it's all those horrible songs. Well, if you can't beat them, join them. Would everyone sing along? Here we go. Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas with bells on. I said ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas with bells on. I'm peeling sprouts and washing up, a drinking beer and chunking up, a quick snog under the mistletoe.
Look out, here comes Nan.
Oh God, blimey, oh no, here we go. Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas with bells on. I said ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas with bells on. The turkey's in the oven,
Jingle, jingle, jingle.
forgot to turn it on.
Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Usual rubbish on the TV,
Jingle, jingle.
that's why we're singing this song. Jingle, 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 ding dong. Merry Christmas, with bells on. A Merry Christmas, with bells on. A Merry Christmas, with bells on. I said ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas with bells on. It's party time, let's have some fun. Will everybody sing along? Stuff the turkey, pull a cracker. Oh God, blimey, oh no, here we go. Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas with bells on. I said ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas with bells on. I remember last Christmas, spent it on my own. All I got was polka dot white fronts and a cover for me mobile
shop.
Jingle ding dong, Merry Christmas. The bells on. A Merry Christmas. The bells on. Merry Christmas. The bells on. I said ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas. The bells on. A Merry Christmas. The bells on. A Merry Christmas. The bells on. A Merry Christmas. Jingle, jingle ding dong.
Ho, ho, ho! And a very Merry Christmas to one and all. Ho, ho, ho! Who was that by?
That was by Santa.
No, the music, you silly sausage.
Oh, Keith Trouble.
Keith Trouble.
I thought you meant the impression you were doing. Who was that by?
No, that was me, you daft devil. Ho, ho, ho! And what would you like for Christmas, young Rob?
Another year of Whaley.
Yeah. Well, if you're very lucky. Okay, listen. I think we should now play one of the interviews I did last year that we were asked for most of all. And this year, I promise, we're going to try and get some more of these rather unusual people that have rather unusual beliefs and maybe the odd conspiracy theorist and sci-fi nut, don't you think?
Yes, we've got some in the pipeline.
We have. Now, this is Dr. Richard Lawrence. He's from the Aetherius Society. And if you don't know what the Aetherius Society is, don't worry. Lots of people don't know. But Richard Lawrence will explain. And I think you'll find it quite fascinating. Dr. Richard Lawrence. Richard, hello.
Hello there, James.
Now, Richard, just remind me, how long is it since we spoke?
Well, we used to speak regularly on another station, and this must be about 5 years ago, I would say, and then we were pretty well monthly or something like that, weren't we?
Yeah, I think so. Then I began serious broadcasting for LBC and now for the BBC, and here, of course, online on the ether, as it were, to the entire universe. I'm able to talk to interesting and unusual people like you once again.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for inviting me back. It's a shame some of these other stations aren't more interesting.
Richard, you are now. Are you? Can I describe you as a guru, or how would I describe you?
Well, I would not describe myself as a guru. I certainly do try to be a spiritual teacher. In other words, to give spiritual teachings and to share particularly the teachings of my own guru, who was Dr. George King. We've spoken about him many times in the past, who founded the Aetherius Society, and I'm a secretary and a representative of that organization.
Well, I think what you better do, because there will be many people listening who've never heard of the Aetherius Society. You better explain for us exactly who he was and what the Aetherius Society is all about.
Sure. The Aetherius Society was founded in the UK in 1955, and what it's based on is contacts with the gods from space, which, strange enough, is the title of a book that I was privileged to co-author with Dr. King, the last book that was published in his lifetime by him. And the whole essence, really, of his teaching, the missions that he performed, and the work of the Aetherius Society are these contacts with beings from other worlds. And these started in 1954 in London, in Maida Vale, actually, with a contact with a being whose name was given as Aetherius. And we call him the Master Aetherius, and hence the name of the society. And since then, we've gone on to perform a number of spiritual missions worldwide. We're still very, very active. Dr. King passed on in 1997, and we've, if anything, expanded since then, especially in Africa. And we basically carry on works which range from healing, as many others do healing, of course, to global healing. We climb certain mountains and hills of the world to send power, to bring change to war-torn situations, to the victims of various catastrophes and so on. And we we try to quantify where we can the results that are brought about to give people more confidence in this, something everybody, again, can do, of course. Certainly don't have to be in the Aetherius Society to send out spiritual energy to the world. Everybody can do that, and many people do. But we do it in direct cooperation with the gods from space. I think that would be a sort of brief summary of what the Aetherius Society is about.
If I was a slightly sarcastic individual, which obviously I am not, Richard, I might say, well, it's not working very well looking at the state of the world at the moment.
Yes, well, I would, say it all. The only way you can judge how well it's working is what state would the world be in without it. But, as I said earlier, the Aetherius Society is not claiming to be single-handedly saving the planet from all forms of pain and destruction. Of course not. There are just dreadful things going on in the world. We do believe, though, that, and there are certain key times when this has been quite clear, Chernobyl being one example, that accident over there, where there has been intervention which has greatly reduced the suffering and the disasters. I mean, there are those who prophesied, both from scientific and religious perspective, mass destruction by now.
And how do you believe these beings, where do these beings come from, by the way?
These beings come from this solar system and beyond. I think but the key thing to say about them is that they aren't limited to the physical realm or the visible spectrum, you might say. So therefore, just as you have, and there'll be many of your listeners, I'm sure, who know this, people who exist after they physically passed on, and many of us around the world have actually had contacts with people who've physically died. There's lots of evidence of that. I've done that myself, and there are thousands of mediums from many different traditions and backgrounds and groupings who've done this. So in the same way as you can continue, if you like, on a higher sphere of existence on this Earth, so you can throughout the universe. So although planets are now being found, and it's estimated, I think, that there are millions of such planets in the universe which could sustain life as we know it, in other words, physical conditions for life as we know it, something that didn't used to be believed, also, you've got higher life forms who can exist and do exist, we believe, on planets like Mars and Venus and Jupiter and Saturn.
So you're not a medium, are you, Richard? You're not in contact with people who've passed on?
I have done channeling. I wrote a book called God's Guides and Guardian Angels about channeling from people who've passed on. You have done a lot of work in the psychic field, as I think you know, but I don't put that on the same level at all, or anywhere near the same level, as the channeling mediumship done by Dr. George King, which is of gods from space. And I'm a believer that a medium can only channel someone who equates, at least, to the level of themselves.
So you're not able to do that?
I'm not able to do that, no. But the sort of people I've channeled, and there's some examples on my website, might be certain writers, certain inspired individuals, and I'm very fortunate to have done that, but they are nowhere near the level of the gods from space. The gods from space, I believe, include Jesus, Buddha, Sri Krishna, and others. There's a controversial talking point.
So you believe that all these religions that are always at each other's throats probably share more in common than some of them realize?
In their origins, I think there's tremendous common ground. Unfortunately, what happens then is that human beings get involved, politics gets involved, money gets involved, corruption of all kinds. I mean, the Christian religion is a very obvious example of that, where very early on it became, to coin a cliche we hear all the time now, political football, but in this case with the various councils of Constantinople and so on, and it just became a different thing. But in its roots, I certainly believe that Jesus, I also believe actually that St. Peter, who's very underestimated, came from another world, but also Sankaracharya, Lao Tse, Confucius. Not every great spiritual figure in history, I'm glad to say, came from another world. I'm sure it's good to know there are some human beings who have attained great heights, and some are better known than others. But some of the greatest spiritual figures have come here, and the Star of Bethlehem is a classic example of a UFO sighting. I mean, it can't really be anything else, if you believe in it, that is. I know that they try to write
let me ask you a couple of questions. Sir George King, since Sir George King passed over, Richard, have you had contact with him?
Since Dr. King passed over, I have certainly, along with hundreds of other people, felt his presence. And there are a number of people who've told me they've actually seen him. And I'm talking about members of the public who never really knew much about him, have told me they've seen him around me when I'm giving lectures and so forth. But I don't claim to be a channel or a medium for Dr. George King. In the Aetherius Society, we're very, very careful anyway about that, because with mediumship also, there are a lot of dangers. And there are a lot of dangers of mental delusion and this type of thing. And, there's always the danger someone could genuinely believe they're in contact when they aren't.
Are these beings from other worlds there all the time, or do they come to see us and then go away? Are they here amongst us now?
Well, these beings from other worlds do have many other things to do other than visit us. And I'm actually a believer that some of the sightings, of which of course I don't know how many there are, certainly there are millions of people who've seen UFOs, and that's just alive now. I mean, through history, there are, if you look at the early texts, the Vedas, the Hindu scripts, are one of the best examples. The Bible is another fantastic source book for UFOs, both the Old and the New Testament. So often they're just seen passing through the skies. And as I said earlier, they can travel through different dimensions as well as through different regions. So they often seem to blink in and out too. That's a phenomenon that many people have reported. But having said that, yes, I do believe there are certain individuals who are among us. Not too many, I don't think. They are very limited by us, because what they won't do, there's a certain line they won't cross. They won't interfere with us. They won't force us to change. They won't take control of our planet. They are believers, according to the communications Dr. King received, in experience being the greatest gift from man, or even God to man. So they really venerate experience, and they don't want to rob us of experience. Hence, there's only so far they can go to help us, to guide us at certain times, some of them to come among us, but not to force us to change.
And they are what lots of people consider to be God.
Well, God, of course, is above and beyond. I think one of the big mistakes that's been made in certain religions is to make these great spiritual figures the same as God, and it's almost ridiculous. I know that some of the things I'm coming up with are going to sound really weird to some listeners, but I do believe that if they had heard nothing, they'd had no information before, and then they were given two alternatives. One is that Jesus, for example, came from another planet, and the other is that he was the one and only Son of God. I think my view that he came from another world in the Star of Bethlehem is a far more reasonable and grounded kind of viewpoint than the fact that the one and only Son of God lived for 33 years in one place at one time and never visited anywhere else. I think the Aetherius Society is a very unifying organization, actually, in that we do credit different beings at different times, coming in sometimes in their craft, sometimes being born through the womb of a woman on certain occasions, and there are often, I mean, the religions give different names for this. Sometimes they call them avatars or divine incarnations, and we're saying they're actually beings from other planets who come to help us. And yes, they are gods, but they aren't God, which is above and beyond all beings, even all planets, all suns, the whole of creation, much greater than any, even a godlike being.
When I first met you, Richard, years ago, I can remember you being very wary of me, wondering whether or not I was going to give you a very hard time. And of course, I'm a very gentle and understanding person, as everybody knows. But you do get upset when people say you're nuts, or when people say you're mad or barking or whatever, don't you?
Well, not so much as I used to. You're absolutely right. I mean, my concern, so just so you understand, as Secretary of the Aetherius Society, is for the feelings of our membership, who are very wonderful people, very dedicated people from all walks of life, sensible people who happen to have a viewpoint. I don't like to see them ridiculed in a sort of unconsiderate and just very superficial way. So I think it's fine to challenge what we say. Of course it is. And we're not actually out to convert anybody. We're not some kind of cult, although that's an easy label to throw around at people like us. People can form their own views. For myself, though, I've done so much since then in the media and so on that it doesn't really bother me personally so much what people say. I've sort of passed caring about that kind of thing. I'm just more interested in talking to those people who are open-minded.
How many members of the Aetherius Society are there in this country and around the world?
Well, around the world we have, it's very hard to quantify because of the African, which is our biggest area, really. But I would say we're certainly not tens of thousands. We're more like thousands of members and very, very close sympathizers, you might say. Some aren't card-carrying members. In this country, we have hundreds of members, not thousands. On our lists of people who, want to attend activities, get our books, I think it's in the region of about 5,000 people now who, in this country, who have subscribed to be on our various mailing lists or emailing lists and so forth. That's a rough figure. It does change.
Why do you think that is? Why have you never become as popular as some of these fairly unusual, it has to be said, organizations which suddenly capture the imagination and hundreds of thousands of people suddenly want to know more and become part of them? Why have you, when you've said some really unusual and interesting things, when we first met, you were telling me about these spaceships that are there just the other side of the moon, the possibility of beings that you believe live on Venus and live on Mars. People saying things like that quite often get themselves into the newspapers. Why haven't you?
Well, I have got myself into the newspapers and the Aetherius Society into the newspapers from time to time. And I even had a column in for a while in a couple of the papers. But I think that the Aetherius Society, there's various things about it. The first thing is that we are a service-based organization. So, for example, at the last weekend of July, we'll be going up a hill in Devon, and there'll be hundreds of people there, I think, and we'll be going up in order to send spiritual energy to the world. Whereas a lot of organizations that are out there, they are geared towards the development and furtherance of their members, and that's not our prime focus. So that's not, people do develop tremendously in the Aetherius Society on a personal level, but that isn't our prime focus. Our prime focus is service, which isn't so popular. I think it's becoming more popular. And the other thing is a thing that you've sort of mentioned, really. It's very far out to a lot of people, our beliefs, difficult to absorb, and, people are used to ideas such as, the Christian idea, for example, which I would maintain is far more, extreme from a theological point of view than anything that we say. But they're used to it, and they're not used to the sorts of things that we say, and we're very easy to write off as a nutty cult or something like that, and that sort of perhaps isn't so appealing. But having said that, I do think we are the longest-serving contactee organisation, certainly in the UK. I don't think there's any other that's bigger or more active or had a longer period than we have.
Tell me, Richard, if you will, about climbing this hill in Devon in July, I think you said. What are you climbing the hill for? Why do you need to climb the hill?
This particular one, it's a place called Holston Down, and it's near Combe Martin in Devon. We believe is a holy place, and we climb it because there is energy there. And a lot of the things that we do aren't really based on faith; they're based on experience. So people can go there. They can come and join us if they wish to. The last weekend in Devon, we're going to be doing two things. Actually, we're going to be invoking energy and storing energy for use to help world situations, but also on the Sunday we're going up for the benefit of the planet as a living being, something that many ecologists miss. Actually, the Earth as the Mother Earth, a living intelligence, and I would say, I mean, I can't guarantee it because you never know what people will feel, but based on experience, nearly everybody feels the energy when they go up this hill. It's quite easy to climb. They can get in touch with us through our website, which is simply www.etherius, AETHERIUS.org, and come
hang on.
AETHERIUS.org, O-R-G.
Okay. Will we see, if we climb this hill in Devon, will we see aliens?
I would doubt that. I mean, there have been people who've had UFO sightings on these pilgrimages, but you can't always, guarantee that will happen. Sometimes there've been. I remember we did it. We went up one year, and for the first time ever, we dedicated what we call these pilgrimages, the whole pilgrimage, to people from other planets, and sent energy to these beings in thankfulness. And that weekend was the largest spate of UFO sightings the Britons ever had. So sometimes when one takes a step towards them, then they will take two towards us. I found this when I launched, and I launched it actually with you on one of your, you may remember, former broadcasting late-night shows, and launched this book, Contacts with the Gods from Space. And it was very interesting because we did a tour. I don't know, you may remember, there was 22 cities. We're going all over the UK in 1996. That was that long ago. And I do remember we started in Leicester and we ended in Torquay. The headlines on the front page of the Torbay News was UFOs seen heading for Torquay. And again, they didn't know about our lecture, which was called the True UFOs Tour. And actually, talking of that, this very month, on May the 10th, we're launching the second edition of that book with some new information in it, and that will be done in Sheffield on May the 10th, and also in London on June the 3rd, and people can get full details from the website I gave, or indeed from my website, which is just simply richardlawrence.co.uk.
Richard, thank you very much indeed. It's been good to catch up with you after all these years. And we'll give that a plug. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people listening who might want to get in touch with you. Are you on Twitter or Facebook as well?
I should be, but sadly I'm not. But certainly through my website you can contact me by email. I'll always reply, and we'll be very happy to put people in touch with anything in the sorts of subjects I've touched on, and indeed many others too.
Richard, thank you very much indeed. Until the next time, goodbye.
Goodbye, and thank you very much.
Well, this is probably the... by the way, thank you very much indeed, Dr. Richard Lawrence. We're going to get him on live again, Rob, shall we, in the new year?
Making a note now, yep.
Yeah, see if he's had any more encounters. Yeah. But this is probably the last time again this year we'll be able to play Wrap It Up for Christmas, and I know it's very popular with a lot of people. So shall we have it one more time? We wish you the compliments of the season again. Let's go, baby.
Listen up, lend me your ears. It's the holly and the ivy time of year. It's nice and peaceful in the studio till a bunch of carol singers try to get on the show. I say, hey, merry gentlemen, cut the ding-dong and I'll teach you the words of a different song. Christmas is crackers, it's just a promotion. Rudolph and Santa can jump in the ocean.
Christmas is fun and happy and funny.
It's just an excuse to part me from my money. You won't catch me giving Christmas cheer. Now sing the song.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Wrap it up for Christmas, Johnny with the fun. Whaley's on the radio.
over drinking and a circus on the telly. On Boxing Day, have the relatives round, have a family fight that goes 10 rounds. I won't have a stocking or a Christmas box, I won't have a crib with an ass and an ox. I'm not gonna drink from your wassailing cup. Knock it off, pack it in, and wrap it up. Well, I've done the show and I'm home to bed. There's a guy standing there with a candle on his head.
I am the ghost of Christmas past. Tremble, Jedwell, and look at
I said, sling it, mate, I'll change the locks, and I don't think much of your taste in frogs. I see you brought a friend, is it cousin Ebenezer? This is not a public thoroughfare, who's this geezer?
you ignorant peasant. I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Don't give me that, don't call me names, and get on your knees when you're talking to James.
For more information, visit www.jameswhaleradio.co.uk. Why not check us out on facebook.com/JamesWhaleRadioShow or follow James on Twitter @the James Whale. James Whale, the voice of reason.